Today is July 8th, 2024, and we have the honor to interview Caretha Evans Brown for the West Volusia Historical Society Oral History Program. And we thank you very much for taking the time out, and we thank James for bringing you here.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for having me. It's an honor.
We'd like to hear about, you said you were born in DeLand.
Yes.
Tell us where you were born and what your growing up was like here.
Well, quite a story to tell. I was born here in DeLand, Florida. I remember early childhood. We were living in a little area near downtown called Africa. Do you remember that? And I lived on Church Street right there in Africa. And later, my mother purchased a house on Wisconsin. We lived at 331 East Wisconsin. And that's mainly where I grew up at, in that area, that community. And of course, it was a pretty close-knit community there because you had Wisconsin Avenue, you had Ohio, you had Michigan, you had those streets there near Stetson University, and it was like a little boxed-in area of African Americans that lived in there.
Who gave it the name of Africa, do you know?
I don't know the whole story about that, but I know it was just that one street, and there were African Americans, Black people on that one street. The history behind that I'm not quite sure of, but that's what it was called. It was called Africa. And it was interesting because it was during a time where families were close, okay? The older people took care of the younger people. You know, they knew everything that was going on, everything that we were doing, walking back and forth, you know, to school. The Winn-Dixie, you know, was right down the street there. We used to skate behind the Winn-Dixie. That was our skating ring during that time. And it was a lot of fun because it was a close-knit of young people. You know, and it was a sense of community. It was a sense of family. It was a sense where everybody knew everybody, you know, and your mother took care of the other kids' mothers took care of me. And it was an interesting time, and we just had a lot of fun. We saw, when I was very little, you know, growing up, like junior, elementary and junior high school, you didn't think about a lot of things that was really going on around you. You mainly just was having a good time, you know, playing kickball, you know, skating and going to school every day and just enjoying, you know, as young people do. And that's what we did, you know. And as we got older, like I was saying, we moved over on Wisconsin Avenue. And of course, going to school, you know, walking back and forth. There were no buses, you know, and there was no transportation. Most of the families did not have cars to transport the kids to school. So when I started going to Euclid Elementary, junior, and senior high school, we walked every day to school.
How far was that?
Over a mile every day back and forth. And during the cold weather, the rain, you know, it was a time where, like I said, you knew what was going on to a certain extent, but you just had a good time, you know. You live life every day. We didn't know we were poor, you know, and I think about that, you know, because our parents didn't say, you know, you're poor, you're in poverty or anything like that. You didn't think about that, you know. You just lived every day.
What was the education like at Euclid?
Well, we had second-class books from DeLand High School. All of our textbooks were written in. Our textbooks were torn, had pages torn out of. And that's what we had to use those kinds of, textbook materials.
Did that make you aware of your place in society?
That did. As I got older, it was like, why don't we have new books? Or why is our textbooks torn out of? Why are pages missing? But the thing that was good, in spite of that, we had black teachers that taught us, very good teachers. The kids there, we were involved in our classes, the science classes, the math classes. We were involved because those teachers took an interest in the students. If you went to school and if you didn't have lunch money, you were going to get lunch money to eat in the cafeteria, okay? The kids that would come to school and they didn't have a coat, they were going to get a coat because one of the teachers was going to make sure that you got a coat, to go to school. So in spite of what we were experiencing, we still came through in a way that the young people that graduated high school along with me, most of those kids went to college because it was ingrained in us, no matter what. Our self-worth was taught, you are somebody, that you can do this. And not only that, it was explained to us that you can do anything that you set your mind to do. You have the intelligence to do it. And that was taught to us on a daily basis, that you could go to school. Now, how that was going to all play out when we got ready to go, to pay for that was a challenge. But most of the kids in my school, most of the kids in my class that graduated in 1960, most of those kids went to college.
Do you think it was that ingraining of self-worth and you can do anything that you set your mind to that resulted in your action that you took with the sit-in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we got to 11th and 12th grade, we began to see the disparities. We began to see the division. We began to see what was really going on, okay? There were sit-ins we could hear about that was going on in other Alabama, other places that you began to hear about it when we were seniors, just in our beginning of our senior year. And thinking about the not being able to go in the stores like Woolworths and McCroys and sit and eat. You could go and buy little things, but you could not sit to the counters and eat. We could not, in the J.C. Penney there, that was New York Avenue, I believe. The J.C. Penney was there. And they had a place where you can go in, and they had a water fountain there. And the black kids couldn't go to that water fountain and get a drink of water. We would be hot, walking from school, and we would go in there to get a drink of water. And we were told, "You look N-word, get out of here."
There wasn't a colored fountain?
There was no colored fountain. It was only white. We would steal it anyway and run out. We would drink water anyway out of that fountain before they could get to us, and we would run out because they was really shooing us out of the area where that fountain was. We were not supposed to drink water out of that fountain.
Well, and the fact that there wasn't a separate fountain.
There was not a separate fountain. It was only one, and that was not for us,
So was there any one thing that sparked you all doing the sit-in, or what led up to that?
Okay, walking from Red City, that's Red City, all those areas where we had, Wisconsin, the Arizona, all of those streets, it was called Red City. And there was a lot of children that walked from Red City to Euclid. And we would see the white kids, white people, period, sitting to the lunch counters, eating and drinking their soda pop and everything. And I can remember distinctly standing to the window of the store just looking in. Why can't we go and get something to drink in there? Why are we forbidden to go in there, you know? And you begin to want the better things and want the conveniences and want to have those same amenities and those same things that you saw with whites. And we looked at that, you know, say 4 years. And when we got to our senior year, we would talk about it, you know. But when we got to our senior year, I remember talking with some of the classmates, my classmates at my senior year, Joyce and Lewis and Priscilla, and, you know, quite a number of us began to discuss, why don't we go in there? What do you think they're going to do to us if we go in there? It was a discussion before we did it. And I remember us saying, well, they're probably going to call the police on us. So what do we do then? So the discussion went on for a little while, you know, a few days if I can remember. And one day we decided that we were going to go in and sit down. And that's what led up to it, because we saw that was what was wrong with us, you know. Why couldn't we go in there and sit at that lunch counter? And we decided to do it, and a few of us did it the first day, and of course that was a stir. It was we caused quite a stir downtown. It didn't take long through small DeLand for the word to get out that these black kids causing a lot of trouble. They going and sitting at the lunch counters. And the next day we did, and when we did, there was police all around. We had, the police was right there on the scene.
What was your reaction to seeing all those policemen?
Well, there was some fear there. There was some fear there. But as the crowds grew, one thing that did happen that we saw was the police was between us and the crowd. It was like they was trying to protect us. So we did see that barrier there, okay? And we saw, you know, Kathy, it looked like it was 1,000 people downtown in DeLand. I'm sure it wasn't that many, but it was a lot of people down there that was watching, observing where these little black kids are coming from. And of course, the first thing they said, that there must be somebody from outside of DeLand that is pushing this up, that is telling those young people what to do. And that was not the case. There was no one that sparked this from outside of us, class of 60, that decided we was going to do this.
Did you have any kind of training before you set off that first day?
None at all. It was just a group of us that was tired of what we were seeing and had the guts to do what we did. There was no training or anything like that. I remember after a couple of days sitting in, there was a call from Attorney Hatchett, I believe. If you remember, he was a young attorney in Daytona. And we were going to talk with him to see what we needed to do next. Because what we did, we would go in and we would sit down. We would stay there until they closed the lunch counters down. They'd put sign ups closed. And so nobody was sitting in after about the third day. Nobody was there. And we didn't know where to go from there, what we needed to do. But at the time, we got was a contact, and I don't remember how that contact took place, with Attorney Hatchett from Daytona. And we were going to go and talk with him. But the guys was stopped. They were on their way to pick Joyce and I up to go to Daytona. But they were pulled over by DeLand police and was detained downtown. They weren't arrested, but they were detained and they were told, they were questioned, where are you going? Now, to this day, we wonder, how did they know we were going? How did they know that that was the time that we were going to Daytona? But, you know.
Were you present when you said the guys were pulled over?
They were coming to pick us up.
Yes.
It was just the guys at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They never got to our home. They never got to me on Wisconsin to pick me up so that we could go to Daytona. That never happened.
Did they tell you what the police said to them when they pulled them over?
They were questioned about where they were going. Question about, are you a part of what these young people are doing downtown? Are you a part of that? And pretty much was, you know, forbidden, you know, this is something you all don't need to be doing because you're going to get arrested. You know, it was that type of thing. And of course, we never made that trip to Daytona. And we did get a call about what we were doing. But as far as any kind of organization of this and what to do and what not to do and how to handle yourself, we didn't get any of that. It was on pure instinct, pure what we felt in our hearts, you know, that we needed to do, because we knew that this prejudice existed. We knew that we were being discriminated against, and we decided that, you know, it wasn't fair, and we stepped out, you know. And yes, there was fear there, but you know, when you look back on it, it wasn't the type of fear that would stop us from doing what we were doing.
What did your parents think about this?
Well, my mom worked for Mitchell's. She worked at Mitchell Cleaners. And my mother was in favor. She says, if that's what you feel that you really need to do. She never forbid me from doing it. However, there were other parents that did. And there were a lot of parents that lost their jobs.
Really?
A lot of parents in the class of 60 lost their jobs, their housekeeping jobs and other jobs with the white families. They lost those jobs. And so we were told that the trouble, we were stirring trouble. You know.
Did your mother lose her job?
No, she didn't lose her job. One of the things, my mother is pretty forthright and she's a very strong woman. She wasn't going to allow, you know, the Mitchells to, you know, and they did not say that she would lose her job, or she was not threatened that she would lose her job. She was the silk finisher there, and that was the only silk finisher that they had at Mitchell Cleaners at the time. And not only that, my mother had worked for the family during the time of the children growing up young. And so there was a pretty solid, you know, relationship that my mother had with the Mitchells at the time. And so, no, she wasn't in fear of losing her job. And she says, she talked to me about being careful, but she never told me not to do it, not to go. There was never a time that she did that.
So, describe the crowd when you were actually going into the store and sitting down.
Well, we were called the N-word. We were told, you little N's need to go home. You need to stop this. Somebody's going to get hurt if you keep doing this. The crowds, especially when they were shouting out, you know, different words, you know, that was not so kind to us. It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable.
Was it scary?
Yeah, it was scary.
What did you all do? Did you hold hands or look at each other or give words of encouragement, or what was the group's reaction?
Well, one thing we did, we stood really close together. No one veered off, you know, kind of far from the crowd. We stayed close together. Our plan was to march close together, to go into the store. Everyone take a seat at the counter where there was a vacant seat. Sit at the counter. Don't talk back. Don't say anything. If they ask you why you're there, tell them that you would like to order a soda. And that's what we did. When we would sit there for a while, and they was not going to serve us because every time we would ask for something, they would put the closed sign up on the counter. And when they did that, we'd sit there for a few more minutes. And I can't remember being at that counter maybe more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Seemed like it wasn't a long, long time. It wasn't like that we sit there for hours, anything like that. But when we left there, we would go to the park. I believe there was a park close by. Remember that. And we would go and sit in the park. And when the police would come, we'd have different one asking us, who's telling you people to come down here and do this? Who are you? What's your name? So we would call out various names, like my name is Mary McLeod Methune. My name is, I would think, was Miriam Anderson. Joyce was Mary McLeod with Methune. We named different people that, Black historians that we knew about. And that's what we gave as names. We refused to give our names. That's one of the things when we organize, we say, don't give them your name. And we didn't do that. So we would sit there in the park, for a while. And the thing that was scary, if I may say this, we would have to break up and go out. I remember breaking up, and going our separate ways, And so that meant that we were split up. And that was kind of scary because when we were together, all together as a group, we felt stronger. We felt better about it. But it was different when we had to split up and I had to walk Wisconsin. Some kids had to walk, to their home. And there were some kids that had to go on the opposite side back toward Euclid. So when we would split up, and, we had people saying things to us. There was white that said ugly things to us.
Did anybody throw anything at you?
No, we didn't. I don't remember anyone throwing anything at us. The one thing I must say, the police here in DeLand seemed like they really were serious about protecting us. So they kind of controlled the crowd because we didn't have any violence, where, someone was throwing at us or someone tried to get to us or anything like that. We didn't have that kind of situation. So when we left that counter, we all grouped together and stayed together as much as we could because we were afraid if we didn't, that something could happen,
How many days did you keep this up?
We were there about 3 or 4 days, if I can remember correctly, about 3 or 4 days. But after that, that last day, I think that 4th day that we were there, they put a closed sign that the counters were closed, and it was rumored that they were not going to open back up. So from that point, it was like, okay, you've kind of accomplished, because the news got out, and I don't know if it was in the newspaper. I can't exactly remember how that came about that they were going to close the counters, but the counters were closed to be served. No one could get service at the counters.
Was there any press coverage at all? Did any reporters turn out or photographers?
I'm sure there were some there, but the newspaper, I understand the DeLand Sun News, it burned. I don't know how many years after that. There was some news articles in DeLand. The DeLand Sun News I believe that was the name of the paper, if I'm not mistaken. And those papers or those articles no longer available because that place burned.
Just a few days, almost a week before you all did your sit-in, was the famous sit-in in Greensboro, North Carolina. Did you know about that at all?
We didn't know a lot about it, but we knew some about it. Yes, we knew about that. And more, we were hearing about, what's going on in other parts of the country. Those sit-ins, of course, had some bearing on us because I believe we were the first high school in Florida that decided to go and sit in at a lunch counter.
You may well have been the only one in the country because I have been researching that, and there's quite an extensive list of the history of sit-ins, and all of those were done by college students who had been organized by CORE.
Wow.
Or SNCC.
Okay.
There was one high school one that I found out about, but the teacher had organized it. Obviously students participated, but this, I believe, was out in Kansas somewhere. But so you all may have the distinction of being the only sit-in that was organized by high school students.
Wow.
And only the second sit-in to take place in the whole state of Florida. So it was an uncommon thing what you did, both in terms of the ages, and there'd been one other sit-in in Florida, and that was in Miami a few months prior to the one you all did.
And was that college in Miami? Or was
No, that was organized by CORE, and that was
CORE.
adults.
Adults. Yeah.
At a McCroys, 1959, December.
Yeah. What happened was our teachers really didn't want us to do it. Our teachers at the school, number one, they said it's going to affect black families, and that you all don't need to go in sitting in. You're not going to be able to change anything. They didn't see it. They didn't see what we saw. And also, we could not stay on campus. We couldn't, after school, we couldn't go in one of the rooms or even on the grounds at the school to organize what we were going to do, to say how we was going to, walk together, stay close together, don't split up, and what we were going to say, what we were not going to say. Our teachers would not allow us to stay on campus and do that. So we had to leave off campus after school, and we went down, and I don't remember the name of the street, but we went off campus and we congregated together and decided what we were going to do at that point.
That's interesting.
We did not have the support from our teachers at all.
It's interesting that they would ingrain in you the self-respect and self-worth. And then when you all were going to go demonstrate that, they tried to dissuade you from it. For your own safety, I imagine.
I think for our safety, for the safety of the school and the safety of the families, that, these mothers that were going to lose their jobs. I think they saw all of that in there, because some of that was voiced to us, of what could happen.
Absolutely.
What could happen. But we really, the courage that, I look back at it now, you don't know where you get that from, except what you see you don't like, what you see in our community. We didn't like that because we were being discriminated against. We didn't feel it was fair. And that was so ingrained in us. That rose up in us so much so that we decided we're going to go and sit in.
How long was it before the stores reopened and served everybody?
They didn't. No. they did not reopen after that.
Well, eventually,
I mean, the counters, the lunch counters, I'm sorry, the lunch counters did not reopen after that.
ever.
No.
You mean they stopped serving lunches in those lunch counters in Woolworths and McCroys?
And McCroys, due to our sit-ins, exactly.
And so you all were never able to go back and sit down?
Never. Mm-mm.
My goodness.
No, they closed them. They closed them down for good. There was no more where you can go in there, and because they knew that we were going to go back, you know, that we were going to go back. And for all of the congregating of people downtown and all of the stir and all of the problems that was happening, it really changed the atmosphere downtown. Things were different downtown, you know.
Was there a lot of resentment because of that?
I think so, yes. I think so. I know we had a lot of resentment from the kids walking, and as we were walking to school, I can remember getting in fights with the white kids, some of the white kids, as we passed each other, you know, from Euclid to DeLand High, you know, going in the downtown area. Tensions got a little high, and we would push each other. Yeah, that would happen with the kids. And we'd push each other off the side. I remember doing that, you know, because if they were going to fight, we were going to fight, you know. And that went on for a while. But those lunch counters, when we stopped going, the lunch counters, they closed them.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, where did people go to eat downtown after that? I mean, was there another place?
You know, I don't know, because I'm sure there were other places down there. We weren't aware so much there was what other restaurants or what other little, you know, fast food places were open downtown. But I'm sure, because blacks couldn't go downtown to eat anywhere.
You just...
Nowhere downtown could we go and eat. So I'm sure that there were other places that the whites could go and eat, you know, that, you know, we weren't aware of. But at least it wasn't a place where we were going in spending our money, you know, to buy commodities that we were discriminated against, you know, because we were black.
Were there signs that said whites only?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
In windows of stores and things?
Oh, yeah. There were signs that. Mm-hmm.
So it was very clear that you all weren't welcome downtown.
Oh, it was clear. It was very clear. I can remember the first time I had up on the boulevard, they had a Dairy Queen, I believe. I believe it was a Dairy Queen up on the boulevard. And I can remember that was my senior year that we were permitted. You didn't find black kids. You know, if those places were off limits, you didn't push it. You just didn't go. But I can remember my senior year going there, getting ice cream.
At the Dairy Queen?
At the Dairy Queen, yes.
And that was on the boulevard?
That's on the boulevard. Mm-hmm. And that was my senior year. So that was in 1960, my senior year. But it wasn't places where blacks could go into restaurants and go into places and eat down there. But at least the Woolworths and McCroys were closed.
And the Klan was very active in this area.
Yes.
Do you know if the Klan did anything, like burn any crosses or anything after the sit-in?
Prior, there was some uproar in DeLand prior to us doing the sit-ins, where there was a cross burning near, it was in I've forgotten which was Arizona or Michigan, I can't remember. But something had happened in DeLand, and I don't know the history of that, I don't remember. And there was a cross that was burned where we were told, you know, be in at dusk dark and cut your lights off. You had to do that.
And this was while you were in high school?
This was while I was in high school. Something had taken place in DeLand, and there was a cross burning. Not far from where I lived there in Wisconsin. That was a scary time to see. We saw that.
You saw the cross burning?
We saw that cross. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that you never, and it's always in your mind, and it's just imprinted in your mind when you see something like that. And of course, when we used to go to New Smyrna, was it Osteen, that you had the Klan had a capital, or they had their headquarters in that area. And at any time, well, many times you could pass and see the headquarters over there, and you could see a cross burning.
And in spite of all that, you all still did your sit-in?
We still did our sit-in. We did. We did. Because we felt that something that we really, really had to do, mm-hmm. you know. Mm-hmm. And when you're young, I think young people are kind of fearless. You know, you don't think about a lot of that. You just do what you really feel you have to do. And I think that was the key to us. You know, we felt that this discrimination, this injustice, if it's injustice for one, it's injustice for all. And that was something that we felt in our hearts, that we couldn't just continue to sit by and see it happen and not do anything.
So after you graduated from Euclid, mm-hmm. You went on to college then?
I did.
Tell us about that.
Well, I went to Florida A&M University. My heart's desire was to be a nurse. And that was a real struggle going through college, because financially, you didn't have the financial aid, you didn't have the scholarships, and my mother worked really, really hard, and it was difficult, but I went. I worked at the university. While I was there, I was able to help myself, you know, and I graduated, and was very, very proud of that. So that was my career as a nurse. When I finished, I got married before I finished college, however, and when I finished, we moved to Orlando.
And you went to work as a nurse?
Yes, I worked at Orange Memorial first as a nurse there. From there, I worked in public health. Most of my career was in public health nursing. And my last job, which was my job that I loved the most, was I was the employee occupational health nurse at the Federal Building downtown.
In Orlando?
In Orlando, yes. Mm-hmm. And so I went early retirement, took early retirement from there. And that's when I started a ministry.
Tell us about your ministry and your call.
Okay. And I really believe that things that happened prior, you know, coming up, and what I saw and how I felt about what was going on in the community, working with the NAACP here in DeLand, and my heart for community. My husband and I had a passion for community work, for people.
Tell us about your husband and the NAACP connection. Yeah,
he was president of the NAACP for several years here, and he worked with the city of Orlando. He worked with the community here in organizing campaigns for voter registrations. We did that throughout DeLand. before I
You
moved.
moved back to DeLand?
No, before I left DeLand, actually, we did that. Going back to DeLand, we did a lot of community work here in DeLand before we left. And so when we went to Orlando, we were still involved in community, still seeing the needs of community and people that were hurting. And that's when I started getting involved with helping young women to overcome difficulties. Seeing what they were experiencing with homelessness, with having children, not being able to feed their children, and addictions. And I was working, like I said, with the Orange County Chaplaincy Program there. I also served on the board of directors for the Orange County Chaplaincy Program. And so going into the jails and seeing women, where you didn't see a lot of women back in the 69, 70s. You didn't see a lot of women in jail, but the population was increasing rapidly. And experiencing that and knowing that if women would have a place where they could receive life skills, could receive support, could receive the help that they need, that we could actually, they could get back in the community and be productive. And so once I left my job, career job in Orlando, the Lord opened a door for a house that I could actually have women there and teach them and train them in life skills so that they didn't have to go back in the community and be on the street.
This was a safe house?
It was a safe house. One of the worst things I think that I saw that touched me a lot, really touched my heart, was to see women in jail, not having the freedom and have lost their dignity, lost who they really are, not knowing who they are, and being incarcerated and having to be subjected to prison. I know it's terrible for men, but it was just something to me to see women incarcerated like that, that prompted me, and really the Lord put it in my heart. I know He did. I couldn't have done it without Him. To open a place, a safe house, to be able to teach them and train them and to give them resources that they needed in order to get their lives together and get the babies back, get a home, get a place to stay, so that, go back to school even, go to school, go back to school, so that you can have a better life for you and your children. And so that's what I did for, I guess, almost 30 years. I worked with women to do that. It wasn't a place where they could come and just sit. It was a program. And that program, we partnered with community, other agencies in the community, like Salvation Army, Goodwill, the Orange County Health Department for health care. We partnered with other agencies in the community that helped those women overcome. So that was something I was very passionate about, because I think that in itself, being homeless or being incarcerated, has a profound effect on our society, And it just seemed like it during that time, it wasn't getting any better. It was during the time where crack, cocaine was prevalent. That's all you heard about was crack cocaine. You heard about it with black young people, and crack cocaine, and that was a real menace, how it was coming into our communities. Our young people were dying by the hundreds, And I know it wasn't just in Orlando. You'd hear about it, in other cities, how crack cocaine was taking over. And that was something that I felt we could do something about. We couldn't change maybe the whole system, but we could at least do something to change some lives, and that's what we did.
And is that still going?
Not the facility itself, but the women are still going. We have many women that have been successful, and they're still doing really good things. Some went to college and finished college. There are many women that's in good jobs, have homes, and they're doing good things. They're helping others now. They're pouring into others what was poured into them. And so that's what we stress, you know, what you've learned, what you've gotten, you need to pour into someone else. And so that's what's happening.
Do you feel that this is your legacy?
I do, Kathy. I feel that it is. Yeah. I'm honored and grateful that God would allow me to use me to do this, in that I've never been on drugs. I've never been on the street. I know what pain is like from coming up in a broken home, however. But this is something that it was my destiny. That was my calling from God to do this. And I think about it, especially when I see these women who have been so successful in doing good things. And I get calls all the time. All during the year, I'm getting calls from women. Hey, Mom, they call me, you know, I'm doing such and such and such and such, or I'm coming to Orlando. I want to come and take you out to lunch. You and Pop, that's what they call James, Pop. We want to take you out to lunch and that type of thing. So the legacy is there. And I'm very grateful and honored that God would use me to do this. Yeah, it's really in my heart.
We live in a very polarized society now. And we know that discrimination is still rampant.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to young people coming up now?
My advice to young people now, the fabric of the family is so broken. They need to know who they are. They need to realize that they don't have to be a part of the brokenness and what's going on in society. Young people need to get a grip and understand who they are and that they have potential, that they have worth, and that they can not only do better for themselves, but they can also help others in society. And so they really need to know. I don't think our young people really understand who they really are and what they have inside of them that they can be better. And we have a lot of young people that are doing good things. We do, you know. I can attest to that. A lot of young people are doing good things. But because of what we're seeing in social media, what we're seeing in the political arena, and just in our communities, they see things differently now than what we did, you know, growing up. And it's a whole different way of life, of living for the young people now, you know. Nothing seems to be real anymore. You know, everything is social media, everything is, it's just not real, you know. And looking on Facebook and all of that, you know, they're losing who they are, you know. And the socialization of being together, everything now is a phone, you know, or iPad, and that's where they are, you know. And they lose that sense of identity, who they are, and even the communications. We don't have that like we used to. You know, young people, we sit down and you talk together, you share together, you know. Everybody is so introverted in themselves, you know. It's a lot of me, self, you know. You know, everybody takes selfies now, you know. Every time you look around, it's selfies going, you know, because that's where they are. But yet they don't really know who they are.
I've heard many people talk about the irony of segregation. Mm-hmm. You described what sounded like a pretty happy childhood, mm-hmm. and that everybody knew everybody. Because your choices were limited. You were limited to your community.
That's right.
But it made the community strong. Do you see some irony there, or is that overstated?
No, it's not overstated at all. That sense of community helped my generation to get where we got to. That sense of community, those grandmamas, those mamas, those uncles. I'm not saying it was perfect, but you had a sense of community and safety in those communities. It was a sense of pride. Those teachers back then, they instilled pride into you, who you are. I can remember, and I know my classmates, many of them can attest to this, we were told you are going to college because you can. You're going to college and make something of yourself, because if you get something in your head, no one can take that from you. So that was during my time. I know it's so different now, but that was during my time that we went to college and we got something in our head. And I'm not sure if we got comfortable once we did. I'm not sure if we didn't get too comfortable and not train or teach or even share with our children, where we came from and what it's going to take for them to make it, because the family is splintered, it's broken now. And I'm not sure if we got comfortable there and lost something in there as to why our young people now, are so far from that close-knit of family. You just don't see it like we used to see it in especially the black families. You don't see it a lot.
Very interesting. Is there anything that you'd like to add? Anything that I didn't ask that I should have?
I think you covered everything. I think the key here is we have come from a long way as a culture, as a race of people, but we've got a long way to go still. I believe that we've got to realize where we are, realize that we are a Christian, supposed to be a Christian nation, a Christian society, and we have left. We've left our first love of knowing, of number one, the Bible, the Word of God, knowing God. We have left something and we've strayed away. And because we've strayed away, I believe that societies have and are paying the consequences of violence, of bigotry, and all of the things that's trying to rear its ugly head again. I think that because we have left God, we've left God, the way societies are now, there is no fear of God anymore, seem like. Everybody's got their own interpretation of who God is and how we're supposed to live. And I think because we have left that, we've strayed away, that until we get back to where we need to be, maybe not back, but come to where we need to be in the things of God, then I think there'll be changes in our society, that we can love each other, truly love each other, that we are not trying to hurt each other, that blacks and minorities are not being suppressed. I think that is a key issue with us. And I don't know where we're going with this, but I think that it's a sense of people, black and white, that can say we're not in a good place in our country, in our communities, But I think the key is that we've got to get back. We've got to know, because if we know who He is and get to know God, we're going to get to know who we are. And that's a key area, because we've lost who we really are. We are better than where we are now. We are more than where we are now. You see? But if we don't get back to the foundation, if the foundation is broken, if the foundations are cracked, if there's no foundation, then where are we going to build from? Where are we going? You know? And I just don't see us going back in this world. I don't see us going back, but I do see us with a serious problem. And prayer, a lot of prayer is needed. A lot of coming together. I think a lot of dialogue is needed. I think we need to come together, black and white, and talk. I think we need to be able to share together what we think, what we feel, and not be intimidated, you know, by conversation.
Tell us about your family.
Okay. Well, I am so proud to say that I've been married for coming up August 62 years to James Brown, my husband, and we've been partners and worked together for all of those years, you know, in our lifetime here in DeLand and in Orlando. We've been so blessed to we have 2 children. Marcus, my oldest son, who is a Christian man, loves the Lord, his family. I'm proud to say I have good sons. My youngest son, James Brown Jr., is he's also a very community-minded person. He has worked in law enforcement. He's actually retired law enforcement officer for Orange County Sheriff's Department. Retired deputy. He has a family. He has 2 children. And a family man. We're family people. Family man. I have 4 grandchildren. My oldest grandson is in Atlanta. He's doing well, auto mechanics. My oldest granddaughter, Faith Ashley, is a graduate of the University of Central Florida, where her mother graduated from. And she's working in human relations for a company. And I have Jeremiah, who is my special young man, special needs baby, loves the Lord, and we're so proud of Jeremiah. And I have a granddaughter now that's at Bethune-Cookman College in nursing. She's in the nursing program and doing well there. So I'm very proud of my family. We're family oriented, and not only that, I'm thankful that my children have been productive in community as their parents have. And so that's a blessing. That's a real blessing. You know, my son, you know, is here with me today, and we work together. And I'm blessed. I'm just so blessed to have children that is doing something very positive and have done something with their lives. You know, and
Well, they had a good model.
yeah, I'm grateful to that. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.